Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have a great show for you today. The magnificent readers in order of appearance are Corinne Conley, Diane Schuur, Raymond Benson, Amélie Frank, Ken Funsten, me, Harry Northup. Here's Corinne Conley.
Thank you, Harry. I'm going to read my favorite poem by Edna St. Vincent Millay. She wrote this when she was only 19. Renaissance. All I could see from where I stood was 3 long mountains and a wood. I turned and looked another way and saw 3 islands in a bay. So with my eyes, I traced the line of the horizon, thin and fine, straight around till I was come back to where I started from. And all I saw from where I stood was 3 long mountains and a wood. Over these things I could not see. These were the things that bounded me. And I could touch them with my hand almost, I thought, from where I stand. And all at once things seemed so small. My breath came short and scarce at all. But sure the sky is big, I said, miles and miles above my head. So here I'll lie upon my back and look my fill into the sky. And so I looked, and after all, the sky is not so very tall. The sky, I said, must stop somewhere. And sure enough, I see the top. The sky, I thought, is not so grand. I most could touch it with my hand. And reaching up my hand to try, I screamed to feel it touch the sky. I screamed, and lo, infinity came down and settled over me. Forced back my scream into my chest, bent back my arm upon my breast, and pressing of the undefined, the definition on my mind. Held up before my eyes a glass through which my shrinking sight did pass, until it seemed I must behold immensity made manifold. Whispered to me a word whose sound deafened the air for worlds around, and brought unmuffled to my ears the gossiping of friendly spheres, the creaking of the tented sky, the ticking of eternity. I saw and heard and knew at last the how and why of all things, past and present and forevermore. The universe, cleft to the core, laid open to my probing sense, that sickening I would fain pluck thence, but could not, nay, but needs must suck at the great wound, and could not pluck my lips away till I had drawn all venom out. Ah, fearful pawn, for my omniscience paid I toll in infinite remorse of soul. All sin was of my sinning, all atoning mine, and mine the gall of all regret. Mine was the weight of every brooded wrong, the hate that stood behind each envious thrust. Mine every greed, mine every lust. And all the while, for every grief, each suffering, I craved relief with individual desire, craved all in vain, and felt fierce fire about 1,000 people crawl, perished with each, then mourned for all. A man was starving in Capri. He moved his eyes and looked at me. I felt his gaze, I heard his moan, and knew his hunger as my own. I saw At sea, a great fog bank between two ships that struck and sank. 1,000 screams the heavens smote, and every scream tore through my throat. No hurt I did not feel, no death that was not mine. Mine each last breath that, crying, met an answering cry from the compassion that was I. All suffering mine, and mine its rod, mine pity like the pity of God. Ah, awful weight, infinity pressed down upon the finite me, my anguished spirit like a bird beating against my lips I heard. Yet lay the weight so close about, there was no room for it without. And so beneath the weight I lay and suffered death, but could not die. Long had I lain thus, craving death, when quietly the earth beneath gave way, and inch by inch, so great at last had grown the crushing weight, into the earth I sank, till I, full 6 feet underground, did lie, and sank no more. There is no weight can follow here, however great. From off my breast I felt it roll, and as it went my tortured soul burst forth and fled in such a gust that all about me swirled the dust. Deep in the earth I rested now. Cool is its hand upon the brow, and soft its breast beneath the head of one who is so gladly dead. And all at once and over all, the pitying rain began to fall. I lay and heard each pattering hoof upon my lowly thatched roof, and seemed to love the sound far more than ever I had done before. For rain, it hath a friendly sound to one who's 6 feet underground, and scarce the friendly voice or face. A grave is such a quiet place. The rain, I said, is kind to come and speak to me in my new home. I would I were alive again, to kiss the fingers of the rain, to drink into my eyes the shine of every slanting silver line, to catch the freshened, fragrant breeze from drenched and dripping apple trees. For soon the shower will be done, and then the broad face of the sun will laugh above the rain-soaked earth until the world, with answering mirth, shakes joyously, and each round drop rolls, twinkling from its grass blade top. How can I bear it, buried here, while overhead the sky grows clear and blue again after the storm? Oh, multicolored, multiform, beloved beauty over me, that I shall never, never see again. Spring silver, autumn gold, that I shall never more behold. Sleeping your myriad magics through, close sepulchred away from you. Oh God, I cried, give me new birth, and put me back upon the earth. Upset each cloud's gigantic gourd, and let the heavy rain downpoured in one big torrent set me free, washing my grave away from me. I ceased, and through the breathless hush that answered me, the far-off rush of herald wings came whispering, like music down the vibrant string of my ascending prayer, and crash! Before the wild wind's whistling lash, The startled storm clouds reared on high and plunged in terror down the sky. And the big rain in one black wave fell from the sky and struck my grave. I know not how such things can be. I only know there came to me a fragrance such as never clings to aught save happy living things. A sound as of some joyous elf singing sweet songs to please himself. And through and over everything, a sense of glad awakening. The grass, a tiptoe at my ear, whispering to me I could hear. I felt the rain's cool fingertips brushed tenderly across my lips, laid gently on my sealed sight, and all at once the heavy night fell from my eyes, and I could see a drenched and dripping apple tree. A vast thrown line of silver rain, the sky grown clear and blue again. And as I looked, a quickening gust of wind blew up to me and thrust into my face a miracle of orchard breath. And with the smell, I know not how such things can be. I breathed my soul back into me. Up then from the ground I sprang and hailed the earth with such a cry as is not heard save from a man who has been dead and lives again. About the trees my arms I wound, like one gone mad I hugged the ground. I raised my quivering arms on high, and I laughed and laughed into the sky, till at my throat a strangling sob caught fiercely, and a great heart throb sent instant tears into my eyes. Oh God, I cried, no dark disguise can e'er hereafter hide from me thy radiant identity. Thou canst not move across the grass, but my quick eyes will see thee pass, nor speak, however silently, but my hushed voice will answer thee. I know the path that tells thy way through the cool eve of every day. God, I can push the grass apart and lay my finger on thy heart. The world stands out on either side, no wider than the heart is wide. Above the world is stretched the sky, no higher than the soul is high. The heart can push the sea and land farther away on either hand. The soul can split the sky in two and let the face of God shine through. But east and west will pinch the heart that cannot keep them pushed apart. And he whose soul is flat, the sky will cave in on him by and by. Now let me introduce one of my favorite readers, Diane Schuur.
And now I would like to read another beloved poem from Khalil Gibran from the book, The Prophet. And an orator said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate and by your fireside, I have seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom. Even as the slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him though he slays them. I, in the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel, I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when these things girdle your life, and yet you rise above them naked and unbound. And how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour? In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun and dazzle your eyes. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? If it is an unjust law you would abolish, that law was written with your own hand and upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, nor by washing the foreheads of your judgment, though you pour the sea upon them. And if it is a dust spot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. For how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom and a shame in their own pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, that care has been chosen by you rather than imposed upon you. And if it is a fear you would dispel, the seat of that fear is in your heart and not in the hand of the feared. Verily, all things move within your being in constant half embrace, the desired and the dreaded, the repugnant and the cherished, the pursued and that which you would escape. These things move within you as lights and the shadows in pairs that cling. And when the shadow fades and is no more, the light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. And okay, now I've got to go to another page. Hold on, folks. Okay. You can do it, Deedly Weedly. Okay, let's see. Then said a teacher, "Speak to us of teaching." And he said, "No man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm nor the voice that echoes it. Bless you. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell of the regions of his weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. And the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. And even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so must each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God and in his understanding of the earth. And I want to thank you so much for letting me read. And next, I would like to announce this wonderful person. He's a really cool cat. His name is Raymond Benson. Thanks a lot, folks.
I've got 4 very short pieces. 2 of them are indeed poems and 2 of them are song lyrics. The first piece I'm going to read is a classic by Arthur Rimbaud called Asleep in the Valley. A small green valley where a slow stream runs and leaves long strands of silver on the bright grass. From the mountaintop stream, the sun's rays, they fill the hollow full of light. A soldier, very young, lies open-mouthed, a pillow made of ferns beneath his head. Asleep, stretched in the heavy undergrowth, pale in his warm green sun-soaked bed. His feet among the flowers, he sleeps. His smile is like an infant's, gentle, without guile. Ah, nature, keep him warm, he may catch cold. The humming insects don't disturb his rest. He sleeps in sunlight, one hand on his breast, at peace. In his side, there are 2 red holes. Next up is, this is a song lyric by a man named Peter Blegvad. Peter is a musician and a poet and a cartoonist, and he also does fine art. He's an American who lives in England. This is called Scarred for Life. Leave me something to remember you by, more than a lock of your hair. Leave me scarred for life, show you really care. You can do it with kindness, keener than a knife. Just by making yourself scarce, you can leave me scarred for life. We walked arm in arm with madness, and every little breeze whispered of the secret love we had for our disease. Leave me something I won't forget, more than a nick or a scratch, to remind me that in you I met my match. Nothing on the surface, I don't want it to show. Something I can hide inside so only you and I will know. You know I'd do the same for you. Leave me scarred for life. And if we never meet again, for all the time we spent, leave me with a tender spot. Something permanent. And this next piece is also a song lyric by a man named Robert Wyatt. Robert was a drummer and musician and singer for a psychedelic 1960s band called Soft Machine. And in 1973, he had an accident and became a paraplegic. From then on, he was just a singer and a poet. This is one of his songs. It's called Sea Song. That's S-E-A, Sea Song. You look different every time you come from the foam-crested brine. Your skin shining softly in the moonlight. Partly fish, partly porpoise, partly baby sperm whale. Am I yours? Are you mine to play with? Joking apart, when you're drunk, you're terrific. When you're drunk, I like you mostly late at night. You're quite all right. But I can't understand the different you in the morning when it's time to play at being human for a while. Please smile. You'll be different in the spring. I know you're a seasonal beast, like the starfish that drift in with the tide. So until your blood runs to meet the next full moon, your madness fits in nicely with my own. Your lunacy fits neatly with my own, my very own. We're not alone. And last but not least, this is a poem by the musician and poet and fine artist Don Van Vliet, whom you may know by his stage name, Captain Beefheart. This is called The Dust Blows Forward and the Dust Blows Back. A little bit of surrealism here. There's old Gray with her dove-winged hat. There's old Green with her sewing machine. Where's the bobbin at? She's toting old grain in a printed sack. The dust blows forward and the dust blows back. And the wind blows black through the sky, and the smokestack blows up in the sun's eye. What? Am I gonna die? A white flake riverboat just blew by. Bubbles pop big, and a lipstick Kleenex hung on a pointed forked twig. Reminds me of the Bobby girls. Never was my hobby, girls. Handful of worms and a pole fishing. Cork bobbing like a hot red bulb. And a blue jay squeaks, his beak open an inch above a creek. Gone fishing for a week. Well, I put down my bush, and I took off my pants and felt free, the breeze blowing up me and up the canyon far as I could see. It's night now, and the moon looks like a dandelion. It's black now, and the blackbird's feeding on rice. And his red wings look like diamonds and lice. I could hear the mice toes scampering, gophers rumbling in piled crater rock holes. One red bean stuck in the bottom of a tin bowl. Hot coffee from a crimped up can. Me and my girl named Bimbo Limbo Spam. And now I'd like to bring to the stage Amélie Frank.
I am reading 3 brief poems. The first by Daniel McGinn from his book Drowning the Boy. This is titled Pen and Ink. He draws a line between bird and fish. That's where he lives. His left hand draws a face and smears the ink. A face has lines. He sees you read his face and writes the word sorry on his forehead. He didn't mean to do it. He smears that word too. He swallows the word sin like a wafer. His mouth snaps shut like a clam. He draws himself a closet and shuts the door. He is a friend of the dark and the quiet. He's a self-made man, a man made of sticks. He sketches a boat. He draws V-birds in a paper sky. Ahoy, he says. The water glares at him. Ahoy, he says. Fish duck their heads. The gulls begin to cry. Daniel McGinn. This next poem is by Scott Ferry from a book titled Fill Me with Birds that was a project between Daniel McGinn and Scott Ferry. This is Scott's. I remember watching this documentary. I'm clearly in photography. When I was 8 or so, they took an electromagnetic image of a leaf and then cut off a section of it, shot another photo, and the second picture showed the mass missing, but the warm lightning surrounding the amputation, still brilliant and connecting the whole body in a string of light. I don't know what to do with this information, which poured out of the television like a long-lost song. I just knew it showed the grace of our ghosts, even if broken, still glorious, even if absent, still singing. And that is by Scott Ferry. Finally, by Victor Infante from his book City of Insomnia, I have Undressing Virginia Dare. And you may recall Virginia Dare was the first English settler child born in the colonies. So here we go. Undressing Virginia Dare. Begin at the top. Stuttering fingers undo simple buttons, fumbling at your collar, afraid to touch pale skin. Then another. It's a simple garment. Wool bodice, dyed red. It falls easily into the forest underbelly. Fabric sinking into the dirt and nestles, tentative. Callous hands glide up your back, undo the ribbon of your linen shirt, then descending. Palms tugging at your waist, ankle-length petticoats unsuited here. The new world pulls you close until your breaths are intermingled, strips you of history, transforms you into a deer, a story, a destination carved into a tree, vanished entirely. And that is Victor D. Infante. I would like to bring up next a man who gets around quite a bit in literary circles, and that would be Ken Funsten. Take it away, Ken.
All right. Thank you, Emily. And privileged to be here. So I've written poetry for about 50 years and over. And but when I started, I wanted to write better poetry after I started and more experimental and more colorful. And I read about this fellow who Raymond mentioned, Arthur Rimbaud. And he believed in the disordering of the senses. So I started to read the translations of him, and I got the idea, but I didn't like the words so much. So I set out to learn French. And little did I know that I was setting out at about the same age that Rimbaud stopped writing. I tried to print a picture, but my printers, we all have these tech problems. But this is just a little idea of what Rimbaud looked like when he wrote what I'm about to read. So I'm going to read Le Bateau Ivre, which I translate as My Ripped Boat. And it's a little poem. It's 25 quatrains, 100 lines, about a little boat that goes drifting out to sea and is attacked and is demolished and maybe eaten by a whale and ends up as driftwood and gets washed up back on the shores of Europe. Here's my favorite poem, Le Bateau Ivre, My Ripped Boat. Luffing down unconscious rivers, I lost consciousness of the haulers guiding me. Savages clamoring for targets had taken and nailed them naked to their colored oars. I had been careless with all that crew, carrying Flanders wheat and English cotton. When the racket finished off my haulers, the rivers let me drift where I desired. In the furious clackings of the tides, me, deafer than the minds of children, I ran on. Last winter, cast-off Spains could not undergo hubbubs more triumphant. Storm rained blessings on my marine awakenings. More buoyant than a cork, I danced on waves called eternal multiplier of suffering, 10 nights without missing the spotlight's eye. Then sweeter than apples' fleshes to kids, the green water pierced my evergreen hull, and with the stains of blue wine and vomitings, washed me, scattered my rudder and grappling. Thenceforth I bathe, steeped in stars milkily, devouring green heavens in the poem of the sea, where sometimes one drifts down enraptured, a scrap of pale flotsam, thoughtful, drown. Where, all of a sudden, tinting the blue deliriums and slow rhythms of hemorrhage, stronger than alcohol, wider than my lyre, ferments the rust, the fiery sores of my love. I know the heavens cracked like eclairs, the spouts, the tsunamis, and what's news. I know the night, dawn uplifted, the same as a people of doves. I've seen what other men only thought they saw. I've seen the low sun stained by living sacrifice illuminate its drawn-out purple coagulation, like actors on an attic stage or waves rolling from far away, their wind in the shutters. I've dreamt the green night under dazzled clouds, kisses mounting over the eyes of the seas with lassitude, a traffic in unprecedented vigors and jaundiced blue awakenings of a phosphorescent chorus. I've followed for entire months, like hysterical dairies, the surge from the assault of reefs, free from daydreaming illuminating feet of Marys, could tie a muzzle on the asthmatic ocean. I've struck, some unbelievable Floridas. Jumbled flowers, some eyes of panthers and skins of men, rainbows tense like brides' trains beneath the gray sea or like rains off glaucous herds. I've seen huge swamps fermenting, weirs where whole leviathans rot in the canes, a falling in of streams in midst of sea calm and the distances waterfalling toward gulfs. Ice, argentic suns, inlaid breakers, skies of white coals, hideous beachings at the bottoms of brown inlets where giant serpents, lapsing from their twisted roots, gratify maggots, ruined with the night's perfume. I'd like to have shown some kids the sunbeams from blue waves, my golden fish, my singing fish. Oars of flowers lulled my unmoorings and winged me in a lidless eye with unutterable wind. Occasionally, martyr, wearied of these poles and zones, ocean, whose sobs soothed my rollings, rode toward me its shady flowers of yellow suckers, and I remained like a woman on my knees. Nearly an island, bandying off my sides the quarrels and droppings of gulls, brawlers with blonde eyes, and I sailed along when across my frailest bonds the drowned floated down to sleep backwards. Oh, me, lost boat without mates tangled in hairs of the seaweed, thrown by hurricane into the ether eye, whose hulk neither PT boats nor Chinese junks would fish up, so ripped with water. Free, smoking, high on a purple haze, I who pierced the reddening sky like a wall, breeding an exquisite jam for good poets of sunny lichens and azure snot. Who ran on, stained by electric excrescence, a retarded plank escorted by blank seahorses, when the Julys threw up the watery skies in passionate funnels, nightsticks thrusting. I, who shook feeling, moaning in 50 places, the rut of behemoths with thick maelstroms. Eternal splinter of blue immobilities. I miss Europe with its ancient barricades. I've seen the starry archipelagos, its islands from which the ecstatic sky opens to the voyager. Is it these endless nights, a million gold birds that bore you and send you away, O future vigor? But come, no more tears. Dawns are heartrending. Each moon is cruel, each sun bitter. Love's so sour it wrinkles me up with a drunk apathy. Oh, blow apart, keel. Reject me, sea. If I want any water from Europe now, it's the puddle, dark and frigid. There, in incense twilight, a squatting kid sadly releases a paper boat as fragile as a summer butterfly. I can do no more, washed in your repetitions, than charm the wakes of the commercial trawlers, or cross the line of the flags and ensigns, or stroke alongside the ripped eyes of pontoons. Thank you. So next up is the remarkable, the inspiring to me and so many others, and the one and only Harry Northup.
Thank you, Ken. I'm going to read some poems by Holly Prado. Here is my story A woman reaches 40. Ragged, my sweater too old. Everything some days is too old. Yet geraniums, such spice in what produces leaves, the ragged body. He says, we'll just make the best of who we are. A woman reaches 40, presses against it. The wall is no wall, but something to steady the emptiness. I complain of weakness, of vulnerable day. Her breakfast is right here on the table. He and I make love. I'm not perfect. And the small tin birds that I pin to my sweater later are all I can afford. We take a walk and stumble. When I die, he says, I hope I'm listening to music. When I die, that awkward agreement to stay alive. The geranium is stubborn. I touch the two tin birds. It's sunny. I became 40 so that I would know what stops. A glimpse of myself at 50 is a woman who describes her garden without adjectives. It's just now how it was. I'm sorry. I've counted on omens, a tree larger than most, some stranger speaking to me, anything to keep myself from the real shape of a hand. It looks just like a hand today. One life at a time, this one. When I see a spoon or fork, I can pick it up. I can rub the birds, make the rough gesture of a sweater push above my elbows. A thing is a thing. I'm going to die. I'm sorry. Ragged body that still produces leaves. The emptiness like a good night's rest or a pair of shoes to be fixed. If the other hand is still a mystery, at least it's with me. And the dream woman last night, her shining hair, I couldn't see a face, but she looked at the distance. I look at spoons, and dying is the making love to what exists, the kindness of stumbling of music. And that's from Specific Mysteries, the first book Caoimhe Press did. The man who has been with me all this time. Grove of Eros, a star on the ground, awed by its own falling, where nothing is denied. We worship and mate. We let fire root itself here, our heads thrown back. Oil reddens the skin. Our faces burn in solemn entrance. Our shaking ankles live for each other. And the next poem by Holly is a section from her last book, Weather, by Caoimhe Press. And Ron Silliman, when he read the book, he posted a little sentence and he said, Holly saved the best for last. It's a long poem. From Weather, quote, with a candle, you're never alone, he tells me. His love is always a mother as well as a lover to me. Interlude. I left the family dinner to go outside. I loved my mother and father, the aunt, uncle, and cousins gathered the dinner table, but suddenly I had to get away, shivering in the early spring Nebraska weather where patches of snow still lay on the ground, trying to melt, but having a hard time of it. I headed for the alley that separated our house and yard from the Sanders, directly across from us. I walked looking down, watching my step, not sure where I was headed. Then, in the middle of the alley, lifting from a muddy pile of snow, I spotted a cluster of bachelor buttons. Their blue was a vivid purple blue, surprising and beautiful in the steadily darker evening. I knelt in the snow to look at the flowers, their ruffled petals like fragile wings. Even at age 10, I understood the moment, nature's attendance out of winter's dormancy. This was proof of God, no doubt about it. I told no one. My family and I shared a mild version of Protestant Christianity, benign enough, but our congregational church never satisfied me. Divine revelation in a common flower would have made no sense in a religion of memorized prayers, solid good works. In college, I lost my religious faith completely. Our snowy alley had nothing to do with passing Latin literature in translation. On my small college campus, there was art, though, theater, painting, music, poetry. The art seemed to me a world of soul with a capital S. How to join that world? I couldn't. I thought I had no gifts large enough to offer soul. 10 years later, I fell from my Phi Beta Kappa rationality into emotional exhaustion. What gathered as despair became my gift to the bachelor buttons. To find my own religion, I had to live within my dream life, within my true love of writing, my pull toward myth, symbology, archetypes, alchemy, prehistoric origins. I didn't find the answer, but the mystery, the sustaining mystery. Bachelor buttons are reseeding annuals, returning every spring. Once, a long time ago, after my vision in the alley, I wrote in a poem, I am returned to what I never left. So that's my ending. And why don't we all come on the screen and talk a few minutes about the reading, if you like. Let's start with Raymond and then Amélie and then Ken and talk about what was read and what you think about the poetry that was read. Raymond?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed everybody's, and I was glad to hear Ken do another Rimbaud piece. I really like Arthur Rimbaud. I had early in my life, I had a career as a stage director, and I directed the play Total Eclipse by Christopher Hampton, which is about Arthur Rimbaud and Paul Verlaine. So ever since then, I've always been a fan of Rimbaud.
Thank you, Raymond. Corinne just came on the screen, so why don't you go, Corinne, and then Amélie and Ken.
Well, I was interested to hear that the fellow that just spoke, I guess that was Raymond Benson, about Arthur Rimbaud, because that was lovely, knowing that you learned French to read him. I mean, you must.
That was Ken. That was Ken that did that.
Yes, but you spoke about him. You mentioned Rimbaud too when you just.
Yes, I read from him too.
So he must be, quite well known in your way. One other thing that Ken read, that I thought was interesting for all poets. The quote, I saw, this is a quote of a poet, I saw what other men only thought they saw. I love that. That's what poets are supposed to do, huh? I think so.
Amélie?
Well, first of all, Corinne, I thought that was an impeccable reading that you gave. That was just a first-class example of how poetry is read, how it is read expressively, dramatically, emotionally, and I was so impressed with you. I wanted to say that I brought the three different voices in because they are voices who started in Southern California and who have spread out to other places. And I wanted to bring the completely different sensibilities of three different young men into this milieu that would have Millay and Rimbaud and Holly Prado. that I enjoyed the eclecticism of the programming today, which I attribute to Harry.
Ken?
Well, first of all, congratulations to Corinne for starting this amid adversity, persevering, and getting it started for us. I also thought it was remarkable, Raymond, that you had Rimbaud too. That's a poem he probably wrote before Le Bateau Ivre, I think, because
it's an earlier one.
It's an early one, and then Harry reading Holly is always a joy, and someday we ought to do maybe a whole program of people we've known who are no longer with us, and Holly, Kate Braverman. It was hard for me to choose Rimbaud because there's so many other poems. I love reading Allen Ginsberg. I love reading Kate Braverman out loud. I love reading, of course, Eliot and Pound. But yeah.
Thank you all for such a beautiful, precise, wondrous, fun reading. And it was really wondrous. And today is a few days before Corinne's birthday, but I would like to take a minute and all of us join in and sing happy birthday to Corinne.
Oh, my goodness.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Corinne. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to warn you that even after 96 years, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, you were all marvelous today. Lynn, just say one quick thing, what you would like to say, and then I have to introduce next week's program. Lynn Bronstein was watching the show.
I'm very happy, Corinne, that you went forward with reading Renaissance, because it's one of my favorite poems. You really gave it your all. Thank you. And I enjoyed hearing everybody else and finding out that Ken has a background in poetry that I was unaware of, since I know him from the crime fiction community. So he's a very versatile fellow. And thank you, Harry, for your reading of Holly's poems.
Well, thank you all. You're all marvelous. And next Tuesday, the marvelous poets William Archilla and Dennis Cruz will be with us. And as we all know, television waits for no man or no woman. So the Cinephiles program is coming up next. So here's Allegra Leedom or Jennifer Clymer to take us home. So thank you once again, Corinne Conley, Raymond Benson, Diane Schuur, Amélie Frank, Ken Funsten, who I haven't seen for a long time. It's a wonder and a great to see Raymond and Ken for the first time on here. So thank you all.